about the time, somewhere around the half hour. So I'm going to do a little preamble here, as we know other folks are just now jumping on and dealing with Zoom updates and whatever else you have to do when you click one of those links for the first time in a while. So allow me to do sort of a long intro. And if you're watching this recording, great. There's a lot of awesome content that we are happy to share with you, which is funny to say because we're about to get into that yet. And how do I know it's awesome? Because we've got some friends here from AVIXA. First things first, my name is Justin Post. I am Regional Vice President here at Map Your Show. I'm the one who's going to kind of walk us through all of the great things that my two friends here have to say. We are going to talk through the mobile app implementation from this past summer's InfoComm. Willie, let me kick it over to you to begin. You mind giving me like your title, maybe tell me a little bit about the InfoComm event, and you know, from there we'll run into things.
Yes, I'm an expo specialist. I deal with the floor management and mobile app specifically, all the exhibitors, logistics, and pretty much everything, getting them ready for the show. Once they sell their booths, they deal with me and for the rest of the show cycle.
And as a frame of reference, approximately how many InfoComms have you worked on?
Oh, well, with now COVID, you have to say you've been here 8 years, but 7 shows. So
Got it.
I think yeah, something like that.
Yep, sounds good. And Taryn, maybe a quick introduction, title, et cetera, and maybe tell us a little bit about AVIXA, and for those that may not understand AVIXA and InfoComm and whatnot, please.
Yeah, sure. Taryn Porter, I'm the Senior Director of Account Services. I have the pleasure of working with Willie every day. We really do handle kind of almost like once a sale is complete, whether it's on the sponsorship or the exhibit sales side, we do handle then the fulfillment and just making sure all of our exhibitors have a wonderful experience at InfoComm. And we do support, obviously, during the show, all the educational sessions, CTS training, all of our members, and gather at InfoComm, among many of the other shows that we do throughout the year. But Willie and myself are focused on InfoComm that happens in June. Yeah.
Got it. And if Taryn, if you had to give a quick summary of that event, anyone that's never been to it, can you tell us a little bit about it? And as you read off, I think some of those numbers, folks will understand why a mobile app is helpful at an event like
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. So we're definitely the largest pro AV event out there, and we do co-locate. We go back and forth between Orlando and Vegas every year. Our 24 numbers that we just had in Vegas were up 3.8%, actually, to be very specific. But we had total verified just over 30,000 in attendance with us. We had over 36,000 register, so we were thrilled with the show this year. We were also up 19% with our exhibitor count. So we went up to 835 exhibitors in Vegas, and we also went up 14% from 23 in net square feet sold on that show floor at 408,500 net square feet. So we were very thrilled. Yeah, we had a great show.
No, awesome. And I should point out, you don't have to have a huge event to have a mobile app, right? We're going to talk through some of the content and whatnot that's in here, but you know, from a navigation standpoint, whether it's a smaller ballroom, convention center, et cetera, I know there are a lot of you on here that may not have the same setup, but have utilized mobile apps before. Willie, let's sort of jump into some of the mobile app stuff. And I guess we're going to kind of give them the end results first, but since your event was in June, any metrics, goals? I mean, what are you guys measuring at the end of that? And what did those numbers sort of look like this year before we get into the specifics of the actual app?
Well, always the goal is to get as many people to download it. If we can get 100%, we would love that. That's not a realistic goal.
No.
But yeah, we got just over 14,500 downloads. So we're almost at 50% of adoption rate, which is one of the main goals, is how many downloads and what the adoption rate. We're trying to get that adoption rate as high as we can go. We used to be down close to 25-30%, and then just these last 2 years, it's getting closer to 50%. So we're hoping to get over that. Another thing is we always are looking at that our app is the go-to for all the information at the show. So if you go to the show, you have to use the app to get the most out of it. So we have to look at how attendees, exhibitors, education students use the app and what information they truly need out of it. So yeah, those are the 2 main goals we have.
No, it makes sense. And so I know you mentioned trying to force, and sorry, I should back up. For those watching this, I realize there are some of you that are like, hey, we have never touched 50% in terms of a download rate. I can tell you from the Map Your Show side of things, we work with hundreds of events that do their mobile app. I would say most of our clients are not in that threshold yet. Yes, I know there's always a segment of attendees who will likely never download the app, so 100% probably isn't going to happen. But what were, and Will, I guess I'll start with you on this. What were some of the things you do leading up to the event? We're going to talk about the app in and of itself here in a second, but leading up to it, that, you know, whether it's your marketing team handling, ops, whoever that is, that they sort of do to help promote downloads like this year over year?
It's constant exposure. So any communication that we put out once the app is live, it has a reference to the app there. Even if they don't download it before they go on site, they've been exposed to it so much that once they get on site, we feel they're more likely to download it once they get there. So yeah, and then we also rev up the online presence in Google and YouTube shortly before. We find the right amount of time before it's about a month before the show that we start revving it up even more, and then 2 weeks even more so. And
are you talking in terms of like ad spend and whatnot through Google and things like that?
Yes. Yep. Ads through that.
Yep.
And you know, advertising for the mobile app is just as good as an advertisement about the Infocom show. It gets the name out there. So we utilize it for advertisement, and it's just a general sense.
Sure. No, it totally makes sense. I obviously there are a few departments that, you know, sort of fit into this, and I'm going a little off script here, so bear with me as we go through that. That's why people jump on live events like this, which by the way, speaking of this being a live event, part of the benefit of you all listening to some of this is to be able to ask questions. So, you know, while I'm sure you'd love to hear myself, Willie, Taryn talk, you know, proficiently about all this different stuff here, feel free to hit some questions in here. You know, if they make sense during the course of the conversation, I'll try to interject them. And if it's one of those where you want to wait till the end, fine, but don't feel like you have to. You can shoot that off here at any point, and we'll attempt to answer them spur of the moment. So, all right, sorry. So back to the ad spend side of things. Aside from that being a promotional piece, I also know selfishly, because you use the Map Your Show platform, that when folks go to your website, and we were sort of doing a little share there of the screen a second ago, so you get a visual. I may jump back into that, but I know that when folks go to your event website and ultimately hit the exhibitor directory or the list of sessions or the floor plan or whatnot, we try to put a little bar or some sort of reference to the mobile app within there. We do that for all of the events that Map Your Show powers the mobile app for. So it's not that that's necessarily unique per se to that piece, but I'm sure that helps a little. But you've got your ad spend, you've got maybe that piece through the website. You mentioned in every single email and whatnot. I'm assuming that's to both registered and unregistered attendees. And is it sort of, Taryn, I see you shaking your head yes. So if you want to run with parts of that question, feel free to jump in.
Sure. Of course, if they've opted in, obviously only opt-ins get all of those communications, but we did really ramp up, especially for 24 going in. I want to say starting in February when registration did officially open, we did, even though we don't go live or launch the actual mobile app until the April timeframe, typically, we really did ramp up our social media promotion as well as the ad spend. Like you already mentioned, a lot of YouTube and Google ads. You also, I don't want to steal anything from Willie here, but also once you do get on site, you absolutely cannot even do anything, maybe even go to the water fountain without getting a QR code put in your face to download the app. So we do go absolutely nuts. We have just simple stickers on tables. We have them all over the convention center, on the shuttle buses, at registration at the airport, obviously at registration on site. Anywhere you go for anything really Infocom related, once you arrive in that in our destination, you're going to have a QR code ready to roll. And I think that's helped us out a lot. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Willie, let's jump into the app itself. We're going to talk a little bit about building and whatnot there, but I realize you probably have a conceptual idea of what you want to do. And maybe this is based off of previous apps, events, etc. What are some of the more popular features? What are folks sort of doing in the app? And then again, we'll work backwards to talk through building that out.
Yeah. Obviously, since you use it for when you get on site for all the information you need on site. So the most used are the show information like show hours, bus schedule, different event times. Also the floor plan and how to navigate around the show floor and convention center. Let's see, the session survey function, we used Map Your Show session survey, and that was very useful. Instead of having to have attendees give us feedback to a third party, we were able to give it through the app, which led to definitely a higher response rate. So the survey aspect was very helpful this year. Obviously, a big one is the show planner and the calendar. You can't do a great show if you don't know your schedule. This is definitely used by our education students the most. They are usually our earliest adopters. They're always checking out session infos and schedule change. So this subgroup is really important to have the calendar and show planning correct for them to have a good show. Let's see.
And I should mention for our folks that obviously they're looking, I'm attempting to pull this up. Probably should have rehearsed this a little better with Willie as we went through this ahead of time, but I'm kind of showing you the off the cuff portions of their app. We'll get into some specific pieces here, but the one thing I'll highlight on the planner, yes, I wouldn't necessarily be doing my job if I didn't tell you this, is that the planner piece of this, and again, regardless of what software or anything you use here, what selfishly we love about this is that the planner piece within the mobile app corresponds to the website. So if you go to infocomshow.org leading up to the event, you're looking around at exhibitor sessions, things like that. They display that via this directory here. Anything that your audience does on here is they favorite things, change stuff on their schedule, bookmark exhibitors, etc. That all shows up within the mobile app and vice versa. So as they do those things in the app, obviously carries back over to there, which helps out a little bit. Willie, I know you were going to move on, but I'm going to interrupt you because we got a question around the session surveys. Now it's so far past the event that I don't know that I can find one in here, so I'm not going to go to one, but they asked about response rate. I don't know if you have specifics or anything that you share through there. I mean, I know it's tough to say X number of people went.
I'll have to talk with our education department and I know it was higher than when we weren't using it in the mobile app, but I do not know the exact numbers.
No,
yeah, and we're happy to share that post this webinar, Justin, with whomever asked that or with the whole group. If you guys ever send anything out post webinar to anyone, we're happy to share that. We just don't have those specifics right now. Yeah.
No, it's fair. And I'll point out, as you go to the sessions through here, there's all sorts of questions you can ask in terms of point scales, multiple choice, check boxes, comments, etc. So, from a reporting standpoint, etc., that you can look at afterwards. But no, that's one of those reasons people go to the webinars to ask these questions. So I get to jump through some of that.
Yeah, it did get highlighted, Justin, just to chime in. It did get highlighted in our post-show results from our attendees as well, that it was just a lot easier for them to remember to do it right away, or if it was obviously during a session, or if we'd ever asked them to do it post-session, they were able to do it even as they were walking out of the room rather than trying to remember to go to a third party. So as Willie already mentioned, the response to those was way higher than we've ever seen. But again, I'm happy to provide those percentages later. Yeah.
Sure. All right, Willie, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot because from what I understand, you are the all-knowing one when it comes to building the initial app. And safe to say 2024 was not the first year that you built the majority of this app. Is that fair?
No.
Okay. All right. So a little bit of experience here. What are you thinking through? What are you game planning? Like when it's time to submit the artwork to Map Your Show or whoever the provider happens to be and all those other pieces, what are you sort of going through when it comes time to build this app initially?
Yeah, I like to say that when I tell people I'm the app guy and they go, whoa, you're a developer. And I'm like, no, I really just send graphics and things to Map Your Show and they make me look good. So it's really true about that. I really, but going back to how do you prepare for it? When you get back building it, you need to talk to all your stakeholders, make sure that you're talking to everyone that might have skin in the game, and make sure that no big changes in their departments are happening that might affect the mobile app. As well as when you get back the app, you want to test. You need to ask as many peers, coworkers to test it, get as many different varieties of phone. I have an Android email group that anytime I change anything, I reach out to them to see if it works on their phone as well. So definitely test. We all often do like a somewhat of a soft launch, and so that it gives us a little bit more time of being in real life with real users. We haven't started marketing it, but people can find it on the app. And as I said, the education people are usually our early adopters, so they give us a little insight of maybe some issues or things that we might need to change before we roll it out to the 40,000 people or what 30,000 people.
Sure. And to highlight what I think soft launch means, just to clarify that for everyone, is that I know Map Your Show acts as your developer account within the app stores. Again, that's not a super important detail, but some people may latch onto that. From that standpoint, you're essentially telling Map Your Show, hey, this is good. Let's go ahead and publish it. But you're not posting about anything online. You're not sending any email blasts out, et cetera. And approximately how long is that process where you're sort of soft launching it? And it sounds like really internal employees, and then there might be a few early adopters that are looking forward to.
Yeah, because if you do register for education, it's a small subgroup of ours. They are familiar with the show planner, so they often find the app a lot quicker, and we'll go in there and start changing their schedule.
Got it. And I should point out from our end, again, this is sort of a technical thing. If folks happen to keep the 23 app on their phone, when we go to push out the new version, it does update the 23 app. Do I wish more folks maybe kept our apps on year after year? Sure. But so far, regardless of the event, regardless of the industry, et cetera, these are primarily items that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, based on the metrics we see, people are downloading a week or two, maybe a little earlier before the event, and then removing afterwards. They don't typically have the staying power of the Twitter app, or X, or Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera. But for those folks that for whatever reason do have it on there, they will automatically get whatever the latest show is. So if they're paying attention, they'll see the branding change, all that other stuff. And I should point out too, while I appreciate you telling us that you send a bunch of stuff to Map Your Show, there is an admin tool behind the scenes that you get to rearrange images, change where links are going to, stuff like that. For those that aren't aware, and I don't mean to make you blush, Willie, part of your work in here, part of the reason we're doing this webinar is because you did a really good job of this. And so you did win our Power User Award for last quarter in terms of what this looks like. So you don't spend a whole lot of time, but in terms of maybe just a couple seconds on, going into that admin, are you literally just kind of moving things around? Do you already have an idea of what you want this page to look like? And I know you got to work with marketing for graphics and all that. So what does that look like on the day-to-day changes?
Yeah, so there's, don't be afraid to ask Map Your Show to change anything. I mean, I've sent them, I've had them change things back and forth, and then going back into the new portal that you can change. That's somewhat new, but it's really just working with marketing and making sure that it's exactly what they want. Whether it's the colors, if it makes sense, is it useful? We do have numbers from last year on how often this button was clicked or this page was clicked. So we're always reevaluating and eliminating unuseful things and clutter, as well as moving things around. Yeah, you really want to spend time on getting the navigation right.
No, it makes sense. Taryn, I don't want you to feel left out. I'm going to hit you with a question. We may toss back over to Willie.
Sure.
There's a question in here around push notifications. Do you guys have like a philosophy? How do you utilize those? What sort of happens?
Yeah, so from a sponsorship perspective, they sell very well for us. They are very valuable just to get that brand, because we have such a high rate of people using the app. That brand visibility, obviously, for those sponsors at the show is incredibly valuable to them, which they did point out in our post-show feedback as well, just from our phone calls following up with those sponsors, but also it came across in our exhibitor post-show surveys that brand visibility is incredibly important. Now, how we use them from the show management side, we are very, I want to almost say the word strict on that. We do not create too many where people are getting annoyed, where they're really busy on site. We've all been there before on show site and been like, ignore, 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 ignore. And we really strive to not do that. And we really make sure that we're not pushing out, Willie, 6 a day, I think might be our max if it's coming from the show management side. And hopefully, obviously, based on our selling, the majority of those are going to be from the sponsor side. But just the start times for when keynotes are starting or when there's a luncheon or things like that, we're really, really strict on not trying to go over. I think 8 might have been the max one day because we have a ton of events on Wednesday in particular, the first day of the show. That's probably 8 is the max that go out from the show management side or from a sponsor revenue standpoint. Yeah, if they've paid for that slot. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Willie, this is sort of a follow-up to what Taryn said, but so if we need to kick it back to her, I get it. So you mentioned 6, maybe 8 on the first day. Is that total number of messages, including both ones you've sold and ones that the show is pushing out, or okay, got it.
Yeah, we are, even when we sell them, we really spread out. We make them spread out so they're not, again, getting dismissed constantly. Yeah.
Sure. And Willie, what's a typical message say, or what do the more successful push notifications say within there?
Yeah, usually it helps to create an action item, like the presentation starts in 30 minutes. Usually everyone's so hectic going on, so they need a reminder right then. Another one is our most clicked ones are always something that says something with free lunch, happy hour, prize. I think we offered free beer one year, and that was by far the most clicked notification we ever have had.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been to an industry event before, yep, I can identify with that. And then in terms of the overall sponsorship, I know you sell some specific stuff within the app. And Taryn, I know you guys work with our team here pretty close. For those that aren't aware, and there was a question in here about the session content too. What I'm about to tell you goes for that as well. When content gets uploaded and or changes to your event website, that same thing syncs over to the mobile app. And what I'm getting at is that if an exhibitor uploads a picture, a video, a press release, all these things that you can favor through the app, which, by the way, if anyone wants to download the InfoComm 2024 app, go for it. I'm sure from a charting standpoint, it'll look weird when we see a little bit of a spike here in the middle of September if a handful of folks download that. But that content, those advertisers, everything, they upload that once. We automatically size things up to the mobile app and whatnot. And same thing on the session question in here. If a session room changes or speaker details or whatever else was in there, I know this is done probably by the content team, Taryn, but someone goes in to map your show, I'm guessing, or again, whatever software or website thing you may be using, and they're updating that piece and flowing all the way through.
Yes, absolutely. It is a real-time change. If we're going in and making that change on site, it is a real-time change that reflects in the mobile app immediately. Yep. And we utilize that often. We actually encourage our exhibitors and sponsors to do the same. If something has changed for them on site, or they are only showing a specific product with a partner, totally just spitballing here, but if they're only showing a certain product with a partner that's maybe even in a different booth on Thursday of the show, they will go in and actually make live real updates to even their directory listing and then in tandem, maybe later that afternoon, do a push notification that they have purchased as a sponsorship to get people over to the booth. It's very successful. It's very successful to use that stuff on site when it is real time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing that. And look, I'll say from my end too, yes, I am Justin from Map Your Show, but whether you're using our platform, someone else's, whatever, in this day and age, there's ways to tie that data together. So if you think a quick combo with me or anyone else here to even just talk through hey, Justin, here's conceptually what we're thinking. Again, we're not going to force you to use our mobile app. I can talk about some of the things there, but I don't want this to come off as a super salesy piece because look, authentically, we see different implementations with all sorts of folks, and we can talk you through maybe how some of that stuff works. So, all right, sorry, jumping back on track here. Willie, in terms of some of the app analytics and things like that you use to measure success, et cetera, what were some of the more valuable ones? You mentioned the surveys in terms of looking back at 2024, what went well, maybe what didn't go well, anything that you would share within that?
Yeah, well, most important stat is obviously the downloads. and comparing it to our total registrant, and seeing the adoption rate, since we are always trying to get people to download it. The line chart also, it does help with year over year. We've been able to see, no matter when we've started marketing, when people download the app. So we know to really rev it up, that 3 weeks prior is really when people start coming.
Sure.
And then really exponentially rev up marketing a week prior to it. So yeah, those are two good stats. Also, just having a high adoption rate helps with giving our numbers to sponsors and different vendors, and yeah.
Yep. No, totally makes sense. Taryn, there are items in this app that are not Map Your Show related. That's okay. We're not going to claim to do everything here. For example, the chatbot. How long ago, and again, maybe this isn't a fair question, did Infocom plug in some sort of a chatbot? Was this the first year?
Yeah.
And I know that's probably an IT discussion, but how does that work within there?
Yeah, don't ask me any of the back end stuff, but I can tell you the conversation did start last summer, so summer of 23, just to really elevate our customer service. I mean, that's really what my team with account services is all about, is just making sure we are able to answer those questions live on site. Something that started the conversation probably more so than not was with the construction going on in Vegas for our 24 show. Knowing our building, we were in West and Central, knowing we were going to be pretty far apart, we did not want to have people running back and forth, to like panicking, looking for the show management office, knowing that North was closed. We couldn't really have a centrally located show management office. Not saying we didn't have one in each hall, but the main one where people were found the most were over in West. So really just starting to talk about that. The chatbot became a really big subject when AVIXA's IT team, major props to them, did build Ava, which is something we have branded, and it's our chatbot that is now on our website. Right now, we're not running it year round. That is our goal, to do that year round, but we did start it in about, again, around the time, I want to say March, don't quote me on that, but we did start testing it major internally, like in 24, January, February, around registration launch. And then we implemented it. We were able to add it right there to the mobile app. And it was incredibly helpful for people not having to run so much back and forth. Like Willie mentioned, show hours, especially with the transportation schedules and the shuttle buses we had going back and forth between the halls. Really, we did see an increase in that number as well, of people just using that app and not having to run around looking for help.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And obviously a ton of show content in there. If you do go to year round, is the goal just any general AVIXA association type questions that folks could ask in there too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I don't want to speak too much on the back end because I don't know it that well, but what we did do is we did start putting things in there that were from our exhibitor services manual and from our rules and regulations, and just more simple things maybe from the LVCVA that could just help people get around in general, or what is really closed and what is open. And, is the FedEx open, was the really big question we got on the chat bot. But things like that. So it was really, really, really helpful to us. And hopefully, again, like I said, we could use it year round, but what we feed into it is what people got out of it. And of course, the more questions that went in, that is teaching us more and more every year of what our exhibitors and attendees, all of our customers are looking for. So yeah, great feature.
Yep. No, it makes sense. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, we're probably winding down for those that are watching live. So this is your point where if you've been sitting on a question, you're welcome to fire that off on here. You've outlined a ton of great stuff so far. Willie, I'll start with you. Anything that you may change next year? I know it's early, it's September. I'm assuming Reg is going to open at a similar time next year. Events happening at a similar time, albeit a totally different location than the construction riddled LVCC. What, if anything, Willie, will you update or look at doing differently?
Well, every year
you're allowed to say nothing because you
I mean, our
so
app
if the answer's nothing, then
our app was perfect.
Every year I do say I want to get started on it earlier, and every year I do get started on it earlier, but I still want to get started on it earlier. And that's something I recommend to everyone, that the earlier you start talking, and it's not just you start months before you even talk to Map Your Show, you're talking to your internal teams on how they're going to utilize the app. So, and then once you get that beta back, take the advantage of it. You got months ahead of time, and you can roll out a soft launch. Because we got it so much earlier, we were able to do a soft launch and get all the knickknacks out of it. Or so that would be one thing I'm going to try to get it started earlier for sure.
Sure. Absolutely makes sense. Taryn, on your end, the mobile app discussion right now has kind of just become, the same thing as your web, your digital, whatever it is, sort of a all-in-one, at least for your audience. And I'm trying to relate this, I guess, maybe to some who feel like they don't have attendees or exhibitors that are as high tech or things like that. Is there anything from like a exhibitor services or client services side of things that you feel like you guys have to go out of your way to help with that maybe some of our other less tech-friendly audiences would do throughout the year? And I'm not so much referring to the mobile app, but it plays into that. So
It
things throughout
does.
the year.
Yeah, it's a really good question, though. I would just say, I mean, I like Willie has mentioned too. I'm gonna keep coming back to the mobile app, but we do see that people do not really start using that mobile app, until either 3 weeks out or till they get on site. But again, taking all of this, utilizing what people are searching on our website, and we are lucky on this account services team again that we get all the customer questions into an inbox. So we are able to take that. We are able to utilize that information. If you're getting the same questions over and over and over again, that someone can't find something, or, again, just the same questions that we get continuously, that absolutely probably should be a call out on the app, and it should be more
Sure.
easily found on our website as well. So it actually helps us as an entire team, not just the account services team, for Infocom, but it helps marketing go, gosh, we shouldn't have buried that so much on our website, or whatever it is. It does really help everybody bring everything to the forefront and just make it a better user-friendly customer experience. And we really have found that with Map Your Show. So regardless of higher tech savvy shows, it really is user-friendly, and you do have control over it. And I know Willie joked about it a little earlier, but just putting in a ticket when we're like, oh gosh, we don't know what to do here. I mean, you all do really help us a lot, and you
Sure.
help us throughout the year. So user-friendly touch points is incredibly important to us, as well as obviously our customers. So
Good. Well, it looks like one other question in here. So again, this is your final warning for anyone that wants to type anything through. You mentioned the session surveys in here. There is a question in here around other post-event surveys that you do. Anything with exhibitor specific, attendees specifically? I don't know if you break that into different groups. What are you sort of doing after the event? Again, both mobile and not mobile specific.
yeah, so we don't we're not using any of the mobile app features to do anything post show. We do just do a big with Freeman, we do our normal attendee and exhibitor survey that goes out to the entire community that has opted in, and that's really all we're doing at this time. Yeah.
Got it. No, it totally makes sense. And then obviously Willie parsing through some of that data, some of the other stuff to hopefully get you started. What is the earliest you think you could feasibly start legitimately laying out or thinking through the mobile app for your summer event? And I'm sort of saying this because I'm going to put you on the spot, because whatever date you tell me right now, I'm probably going to reach out to you around then to be like, hey, Willie, it's time to get started. So,
what date do we want to launch? Is that what you're asking?
no, when would you like to start? If you could start earlier, when are you like, hey, I'm going to at least start thinking about these graphics?
Well, I usually try to start right after the new year with getting
Okay.
graphics.
All right.
Starting point. But right now I'm talking with the education department. We're looking over the questions at the AI bot and seeing what kind of how people are using the apps and designing it different. We'll see what we need to do.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Taryn, thank you much. Willie, thank you much.
Of course.
If anyone here has any questions on their event, mobile, other sort of items like that, again, they do not have to be Map Your Show related. Feel free to reach out. My info is somewhere on the mapurshow.com website, so I won't recite it here, but jump on there. And if you have questions on how to become the next power user winner here at Map Your Show, we are starting, shouldn't say starting, we're now a little ways into a quarterly award here based on the different modules. I would love to tease some of what may be coming up in the future. So Willie, Taryn, thank you much. Obviously yell if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, thanks for your attention.
Thank
very
you.
much.